Oh, there we go. Three, two, one. Let's see here. Whoops, let's actually change some of the settings on this because it looks a little weird here. Hi everyone, I'm playing around with the settings on this just a little bit. I'll make that smaller here. So let's actually change some of the settings on this because it looks a little weird here. Can we play with it again? Let's see. Whoops. We're actually going to leave this here. Alright, well, 3, 2, 1. From the New England Chevy Dealers Storm Tracker Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jordan Chaplinsky here, continuing to provide updates on the tropics right now because it is fairly active, as we normally expect at this time of year. I'm meteorologist Jordan Chaplinsky. It is currently 5:38 p.m. here on Sunday, September 17th of 2017. And normally at this time of year, it is fully the hurricane tropical active tropics. Those usually kick into high gear because normally in the month of September, 34% in a typical year, 34% of named major storms that we do see occur in September. That's the highest month during the hurricane season here, and that's certainly true, as we've seen here with Harvey, although that was in late August, and then we had Irma, and now Jose, and we also are monitoring several systems out in the Atlantic here, or in the Pacific here as well. So let's take a look here. And we do have, we'll start with that because this is not likely to affect our area here, but we just don't want to completely ignore what's going on here. The one furthest to the left right now, this is Hurricane Otis right now. It is currently a Category 1 hurricane with maximum winds at 80 miles per hour. Central pressure is 988 millibars, and the storm motion is 5 miles per hour, so it's moving fairly slowly, although it is expected to weaken here as it heads to the north and then eventually to the west, according to the National Hurricane Center's current track. The other storm that we do have out in the Pacific right now is Tropical Storm Norma, which is expected to become a tropical depression as it loses some of those tropical characteristics here. Again, these two out in the Pacific, not really expected to impact anyone, although Norma, is expected to head to the northwest and then make a turn to the right, so it may come toward Mexico as obviously a much weaker storm by that point. And you can see here by the spaghetti models, many of them bringing it through the central U.S. and maybe even into southern Canada, but it would likely be a much weaker storm by that point. The storms that we are more concerned about here in our area are the storms further to the east, out toward the Atlantic right now. We have several storms that we are continuing to monitor right now. The number one, the main primary concern, and the reason why a lot of you are coming here is because of Jose right now and the impact that it will have on Connecticut. So let's take a look at the latest on Hurricane Jose. It is a Category 1 storm, and so let's actually turn on the wind radius here. So that's very interesting to look at here. And then we'll do the forecast radius here. That pretty much shows you the wind field around the storm. So the latest on Jose, we have central pressure at around 967 millibars. The winds are 92 miles per hour, so it's a moderate hurricane, Category 1 hurricane. And the winds, or the storm motion, currently right now to the north at around 10 miles per hour. So it's a relatively slow moving storm at this time. This storm is expected to, what it's expected to do here is it's expected to continue to head to the north here. Oh, there we go. There's the tropical storm watch, which I'll get to in a minute here. So what it's expected to do here, and so I'm going to explain the science of why it's going to do this here. As most of the models indicate here, the ensembles indicate it's going to do, is it's going to head to the north and then make a slight turn to the right here. So it will lose some steam here as it heads further to the north, and then make a turn toward the right here as it heads over toward, maybe toward, as you would think, and if it continued on this northerly path, it would make landfall in the Cape or out toward Nantucket. But because of the fact that we have these areas of high pressure here, that is a blocking force. So the winds around those highs go in clockwise motion, so that prevents it coming any further north. So it doesn't really have anywhere to go except for toward the right here. Although, even though it is going to go toward the right and not necessarily make a direct impact on our area, it is going to have an impact. It is going to have some impact on our area. That's why I don't like this cone here. That's the thing about the misconception that people make about this cone here, is that, oh, I'm not in the cone, I'm not going to get any effects. This is called the cone of uncertainty. This just means that there is a margin of error where the storm could go a little bit further to the west, because the yellow line indicates where the center of the storm is going to go, the eye of the hurricane. So it could go a little bit to the west or a little bit to the east here. So even though, this area will get some of, even though you may not get the worst of the effects, even though you may be outside of the circle here, you are definitely still going to get some effects from this storm. And you may be wondering, what's the timing for the storm? It would be probably Monday, maybe Tuesday, and then to Wednesday and Thursday. So through the midweek period here is when we're going to get some of the effects from this storm here. And so this is, again, our primary concern right now. I want to take you through some of the latest information as of 5 p.m. So when you may be wondering, when do we get the advisories? These advisories come in at 5, they come in every 6 hours. At 5 a.m., 11 a.m., 5 p.m., and 11 p.m. Although sometimes, depending on the strength of a storm, the National Hurricane Center, which is located down in Miami, which, as you know, got some devastating impacts from Irma, sometimes they may issue intermediate advisories, depending on the strength of the storm, which means we may get a new track every 3 hours as opposed to every 6 hours. Jose has not reached that strength just yet, so we're still getting it on 6 hours, and if we do get intermediate advisories, we would get it at 2 a.m., 5 a.m., 8 a.m., 11 a.m., 2 p.m., 5 p.m., 11 p.m., 2 p.m., 5 p.m., 8 p.m., and 11 p.m. here. So, again, not reaching that strength just yet, although I don't expect them to do that not necessarily with Jose, but maybe on some of the other storms which we're watching here, and we may get to that, and we're going to get to that in just a minute here. So here's a look at the latest. And in case you're wondering, what are all the numbers over the ocean for? Are those current temperatures? No, it's not 11 degrees out in the ocean. Those are the current wind gusts. I believe it's wind gusts right now. I'll have to check. It may be wind speeds, but these are, yeah, those are wind gusts. Can we pull up sustained winds? No, that just shows you the wind direction. Continuous gusts. I don't think that's going to load up for us here. But the wind gusts right now. And so, tropical storm force wind gusts are wind gusts in excess of 39 miles per hour or greater. Hurricane force winds, category 1 hurricane force winds, are winds in excess of, or gusts in excess of 74 miles per hour, and severe thunderstorm force gusts, or gale force gusts, are winds in excess of 58 miles per hour here. And I'm going to show you, look at some of the buoys as we get closer toward the center of the storm. We have one to the right and one to the left in comparison to where the storm is right now. The one on the left, the left side of the storm is usually much weaker. So we have a wind gust east of Charleston, South Carolina of 34 miles per hour. And on the right side of the storm is where you usually get the stronger winds and the rains and the tidal flooding. We have wind gusts here that's borderline gale force gusts, although it's not necessarily hurricane force gusts, of 58 miles per hour. And of course the center of the storm, as we mentioned, has winds over 90 miles per hour. And so the little circles here as the storm heads north, you may be wondering what that is. That is the possibility of the likelihood of tropical storm force wind gusts, the blue area. And it looks like right now the best chance for I was looking at the percentages of tropical storm force winds. The best chance for that would be from Hartford to New Haven over to Middletown and points to the east, so mainly eastern Connecticut right now. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that here. And so I'm going to go through some of the impacts here as well. So let's take you through the latest in terms of watches and warnings here for our area and for much of southern New England. Let me just zoom in, because I like to zoom. Whoops, that's not where I want to zoom in. That's eastern Pennsylvania. There's a particular area that we like to zoom into here. So if you're in this sort of, I would say that's like a yellow or a reddish-orange color here. That includes southern Connecticut, southern Rhode Island, southeastern Mass, the Cape and the Islands, as well as areas out toward Long Island and southern and eastern New Jersey. If you're in that sort of tannish reddish color, that includes all 4 of our southern counties. That is a tropical storm watch, which has been issued as of 5 o'clock today. We were watching the National Weather Service chat rooms, and they were talking about issuing those earlier in the day, and now they have issued those. Of course, as the storm moves along here, and gets closer toward our area, that would likely get upgraded to a warning as conditions warrant here. But again, right now, for the time being, it is just a watch. In addition to that, we have a hurricane statement, which means that, again, that possibility of a tropical storm for northern Rhode Island there. And we also have a high surf advisory for areas of the Cape and the islands, as well as portions of Long Island here. And that tropical storm watch goes through parts of New York City and again towards southern New Jersey. So the purple area is a high surf advisory. It's not a hurricane. It's not a tropical storm watch. It is a high surf advisory here. That was the first watch that we were seeing issued for our area. So the first area that was to see the tropical storm watch was for southern New Jersey, east of Philadelphia towards southern New Jersey. Then we saw it issued for Long Island and New Jersey, and then we saw it toward the Cape and the Islands and southern Rhode Island, and now the latest alert to be issued is for southern Connecticut here, as well as Westchester County in New York. So again, that's for Jose. That's our primary threat right now. The other storm that we are continuing to watch here, there are several. Why does it keep doing that? The other storms that we are continuing to watch here out in the Atlantic, because there are several of them, and this one here is not good news for the Caribbean here, because, as you know, we just saw Irma here within the last week or two, and we saw Jose pass through many of these islands. For the third time in 2 weeks, these areas are under hurricane watches and warnings once again. And although, yes, it is, shocking and devastating and rare, it's not completely out of the ordinary here. Although the last time we saw, so it's not unusual to get 3 hurricanes in the span of a month here. I looked through the record books. In 1886, Texas had 4 storms that made landfall in their state 4 times in a year. Florida have 3 storms make landfall in a year in that area. So again, it's not completely unprecedented, but of course this is just an area that has been completely decimated by Hurricane Irma and later Jose here. And so the current status with Maria, this is Hurricane Maria here. It was Tropical Storm Maria, but as of 5 p.m., they have upgraded it to a hurricane with current maximum winds at 74 miles per hour. So it is just a weak Category 1 at this point. But again, that's just understating it, because they have already seen some significant damage here. So it's really doing insult to injury here, if you want to call it that, toward this area. So areas that, again, we have to watch for Maria here include those Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, so we're talking about areas like Antigua, Barbuda, the Lesser Antilles. We're also talking about the Leeward Islands here, as we mentioned, and San Juan, St. Lucia, St. Martin, St. George, St. Kitts. All of these areas really have to watch out for this storm. And for the first time in 300 years, the president of Barbuda said the island has been completely is completely uninhabitable at this time. There is no tree or building that is left standing in the island right now. And it's only going to get worse, because as Maria continues to move through that area, it is expected to get to Category 2 and eventually as 3 strength here as it heads toward the south of Puerto Rico here. Although some of the spaghetti plots, as you can see here, have it coming right through the island of Puerto Rico. So things may not be too bad now, although they are expected to get worse as we head through the next few days here. That's the current marine observation here. And I wouldn't be surprised if Maria is does eventually become a Category 4 storm, because the current projection now as it heads toward the south of Puerto Rico is for winds of 125 miles per hour. The wind gust for a Category 4 storm is 130 miles per hour. So it will be either a strong Category 3 storm or weak Category 4 storm. But really, 5 miles per hour does not really make a difference. The difference in damage is virtually unnoticeable here. So where will it go after that? It will likely, again, impact the areas of Hispaniola. That includes Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And again, the eastern areas, potentially, of Cuba here, before heading toward the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos, which again is another area that absolutely does not need this right now. Although the good news for Florida is that we're likely to stay to the east of you, although you may get some of the knockoff effects of the storm, maybe some higher winds, some rain, and some surf here toward eastern Florida, and they already have issued a high surf advisory for that area as well. The third storm that we're watching here out in the Atlantic is Tropical Depression, or Tropical Storm Lee, which really is not expected to strengthen here, because although, yes, it followed a similar path to Maria, it's heading in a different direction as Maria. is heading more toward the north. So that means it's heading towards some colder waters, which means that there really is not much room for re-strengthening here. In fact, if anything, it's going to weaken here. Right now it's a tropical storm, and it's likely to just become a tropical depression and then eventually just an area of low pressure out in the ocean and mainly become a fish storm. So that's the latest. Of course, I'm going to continue to monitor the models throughout the night here and continue to let you know of the latest. So again, just to reiterate here, if you have just tuned in here to the latest in terms of the storm right now, tropical storm watches issued for the Connecticut shoreline for Jose right now. So we'll continue to keep you posted as conditions warrant. And of course, our next update is tonight at 11 o'clock. I will not be up at that time because I have to be up for school in the morning. But of course, as conditions warrant, we will let you know of that. Have a great evening, everyone.